Yamaha's decision to abandon its long-standing inline-four philosophy and commit to a V4 engine for the 2026 MotoGP season represents far more than a technical reset. It is a strategic gamble that could reshape the internal balance of power at the factory, redefine its rider hierarchy, and place renewed scrutiny on the future of its biggest star, Fabio Quartararo. For years, Yamaha stood firm as the last major manufacturer defending the inline-four concept, even as the MotoGP grid shifted decisively towards V4 power plants optimized for aerodynamics, ride height devices, and brutal acceleration. But as the YZR-M1 slipped deeper into the midfield and struggled to keep pace in the aero-driven era, the pressure to follow the direction of its rivals became impossible to ignore. The move to a V4 is therefore an admission as much as an evolution. Yamaha are chasing relevance again, but the transition is already exposing tensions within the team, not least involving Quartararo, the 2021 world champion who built his success around the smooth, corner-speed DNA of the inline-four M1. Quartararo's public frustration has been unmistakable. While not overtly confrontational, his comments about Yamaha's project have carried a notably flatter tone, lacking the optimism that typically accompanies a new technical direction. That attitude has not gone unnoticed inside the factory, prompting a rare and direct response from Yamaha managing director Paolo Pavesio, a sign that the situation is being closely managed at the highest level. Such exchanges inevitably fuel speculation. In the paddock, questions are quietly being asked about whether Quartararo remains the undisputed focal point of Yamaha's future, or whether the V4 program is being shaped around a broader, longer-term vision that may not fully align with his riding identity. Former MotoGP rider Marco Melandri has added further weight to those doubts. Melandri suggested that the overall mood among Yamaha riders regarding the V4 prototype has been underwhelming. "It seems that all the Yamaha riders are complaining about this new bike," Melandri said. "From their statements, I don't see great enthusiasm for the new M1, and on track, I was expecting more from the engine." What stands out in Melandri's assessment is the contrast he draws between Quartararo and Yamaha's test riders, particularly Andrea Dovizioso. While the race riders have voiced concerns or muted reactions following testing in Valencia, Dovizioso's outlook has been notably more proactive and positive. Melandri openly admitted he places greater trust in Dovizioso's judgment, largely due to his extensive experience developing V4 machinery, most notably during his years at Ducati. "I prefer to trust Andrea because he's the one developing the bike and has full control of the situation," Melandri explained. That difference in perspective raises an intriguing question. Is Yamaha deliberately holding something back, or is the V4 project genuinely still in a fragile, exploratory phase? Melandri himself wondered whether Yamaha might be bluffing, masking the true potential of the engine while the foundations are still being laid. The disparity between rider feedback also highlights a deeper issue. Quartararo is not just Yamaha's most successful current rider, he is also the one most deeply conditioned to the inline-four concept. With 7 seasons of experience built around that engine's characteristics, braking behavior and corner entry feel, the shift to a V4 represents a fundamental disruption to his riding language. According to Melandri, that could make Quartararo the Yamaha rider who struggles most with the transition. "I don't think it will be easy for Fabio to repeat the success he achieved with the inline-four using a V4, he said. "For years he's been used to that engine's character, and finding a new balance won't be simple." Beyond performance, the implications for Quartararo's long-term future are impossible to ignore. His contract runs until the end of 2026, perfectly aligned with the introduction of Yamaha's new technical era. Melandri would not be surprised if the Frenchman ultimately chooses to walk away once that deal expires. "Based on his statements and what's happening, it seems that way," Melandri admitted. "Fabio could leave, but let's wait and see. I still have some questions myself." For Yamaha, the V4 is a necessary risk, a bid to survive in a championship that no longer rewards loyalty to tradition. But in making that leap, the factory may also be testing the patience, adaptability, and future commitment of the rider who once carried them back to the top. Whether Quartararo can reinvent himself on a V4 or whether Yamaha's rebirth comes at the cost of losing its world champion is a storyline that will define the next phase of MotoGP's competitive landscape. Beyond the immediate technical debate, Yamaha's V4 transition also reflects a deeper cultural shift inside the factory. For decades, Yamaha's identity was built around refinement, precision, and rider-friendly balance rather than brute force. Moving to a V4 is not only about chasing lap time, but about re-educating engineers, mechanics, and riders to think differently in an era where aggression and adaptability often outweigh elegance. This is where the challenge becomes as much psychological as mechanical. Quartararo has always thrived when he could trust the front end and exploit corner speed, riding with instinct rather than force. A V4 by nature demands a more assertive riding style, particularly on corner exit, where traction management and rear grip define competitiveness. Adapting to that shift requires time, and patience is a rare commodity in modern MotoGP. Yamaha's dilemma is compounded by the fact that Quartararo is no longer a developing rider. As the most experienced and decorated member of the team, expectations are naturally higher, yet his feedback now comes from a position of comparison with a bike philosophy that no longer exists. That can create friction when engineers are asking riders to commit to a vision that still lacks tangible rewards on race weekends. From Yamaha's perspective, reliance on test riders like Dovizioso becomes increasingly logical. His emotional distance from race results allows him to focus purely on data, structure, and long-term progress. While this may accelerate development, it also risks creating a disconnect between the prototype's evolution and the needs of Yamaha's lead racer, whose confidence ultimately determines race day performance. There is also a strategic risk in how rivals interpret Yamaha's growing pains. Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia have refined their V4 packages over multiple seasons, building ecosystems where riders can rotate in and out without destabilizing performance. Yamaha, by contrast, are attempting a compressed transformation under intense scrutiny and with limited margin for error. Should the V4 fail to deliver a clear step forward by late 2025, the consequences could be severe. Rider morale, sponsor confidence, and Yamaha's broader MotoGP credibility would all be tested. In that scenario, Quartararo's doubts would appear less like frustration and more like foresight, strengthening his position should he seek opportunities elsewhere.